Hello, I'm so glad that you joined me for this mini workshop on setting priorities for your small business. I'm Sara Phelan. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I work with entrepreneurs in business diagnostics and strategic planning. And one of the biggest challenges that I've seen is that we don't really know where to begin or how to get started. And I was the entrepreneur first. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. First off, this workshop is for entrepreneurs and small business owners who work in their business. If you have management teams or you have other people in your organization that are looking at your big picture or helping you evaluate, this is to help you look at your whole big picture. It's a very holistic approach to figuring out where your priorities begin. So the idea is that we're going to evaluate your current situation. Then we're going to discover what needs attention and setting priorities and how to start that plan for next. Instead of just picking out the paper airplane and what you're going to do, really focusing in on what's important and what's going to move you and your business forward. If you're that entrepreneur, you're probably looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, I have to evaluate my opportunities. What's really causing me grief? What would you fix if you had unlimited cash or resources? And what would be the first thing you would action on? Today, we're going to talk about all of this, but it really comes down to you as the entrepreneur. And it's about mindset, committing to this process. There is no magic pill, but you have to trust that you're in the right place and that you're looking for the right information. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and how I know what I know. I'm going to talk about setting priorities, and we're going to talk about that evaluation framework. And there'll be a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So this will move fast. It's 30 minutes. I want you in and out. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat. Or you can wait until the end, whichever feels better for you. I will stay on for a few extra minutes at the end to deal with any one-on-one questions. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story and how I got into entrepreneurship and into business. And, this was my store in Sackville, New Brunswick, small retail operation. It was always a dream of mine to have an outdoor store that specialized in high-end camping equipment and backpacking gear. I'd worked in stores like this in Banff and in Victoria, and I'd managed those stores, but being an entrepreneur was a lot different. And you can see there's my daughter she was 9 months old when I opened the business. And life and business don't always run hand in hand. So there were lots of challenges. My daughter is now 19 and my son is 15. And life has really evolved since these early days. So taking it a step back, I was actually a corporate trainer in leadership, service, and sales in the telecom industry. Then I opened my dream startup. I was an award-winning entrepreneur. And closing my business, I learned so much more about being in business than I did when I was in business. And there were lots of days when I wish somebody would tell me what to do. And I'm sure you've felt that way at some point. Transitioning into my next, phase of entrepreneurship, I actually became a business broker. And I started working with other entrepreneurs having the exact same questions, going through the exact same situations and having really humbling discussions, just like I did when I went through. Succession planning really became the standout issue. We need to start talking about exit planning from day one. There's no wrong in how we do business, but they also don't come with a manual. I often refer to it as my third child who didn't scream quite as much. But I really wanted to help people understand what I learned through that exit process. I became a certified business and executive coach, and I spent the last 14 years working with entrepreneurs and small businesses around the world that are focusing in on growth and strategy on how to take their business to the next level. Now, everyone says, well, what's your niche, Sara? What's the industry that you like to work with the most, or where do you have the most experience? And really foundationally, what we're talking about here is, every one of these industries are the ones that I have actually done a substantial amount of work in, but there's a lot of other industries that I've touched in and worked with that aren't listed here. But foundationally, all of these businesses and all of these industries, we all have the same core business structure. You could take an MBA at Stanford or an MBA here in Canada at Dalhousie University, and you're going to cover pretty much the same courses. The idea is that we all have people, we all have products or services, we all have, well, maybe not people, it may just be you, which includes people, and we all have that need to make a sale or a transition or something that we offer that we exchange for money. I gotta tell you that, coming out of being an entrepreneur and looking at it differently and then trying to sell businesses, I had to come up with a really quick way to do an inventory of a business. I needed to figure out, much like selling a house, you have a floor plan, you have all the nice pieces in there, and you show sizes of rooms. And the floor plan is great, but if the house has a beautiful kitchen or bathroom and it doesn't have a roof, we still have to be able to say it doesn't have a roof. It doesn't sell for as much as we thought it would. Businesses are a little tougher. Things can look good on the outside, but when you start digging in a little, is the structure there? Are there gaps that need to be addressed? What's the business value? Well, at the end of the day, we only build businesses to either franchise or sell. So what is it that your business is doing, and how healthy is it? And what are the things that you can do to increase your business value or prioritize your next steps because you need to get back on track? So I want to share this with you because these are the questions, and this is the assessment that I used when I started out selling businesses to figure out what was going on and what we could do better. It's a 52-point business diagnostic checklist. Now, it sounds like a lot. It is a checklist. It's something that we can really just take a step back and sit down with and work through. I'm giving you some questions that you're going to be able to answer. And then based on your answers, you're also going to be able to prioritize what's really important or where you have gaps. I can tell you that as an entrepreneur myself, I did the things that I was comfortable with, and the things that I wasn't comfortable with, I sometimes let slide. So I know that with my clients, it has been the same. We all get comfortable with the things that we're good at, but are we looking at the whole big picture? So when we talk about setting priorities, we're talking about, I like to build it on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is an urgent need. 2, it's an issue, but I'm not really, it's not a super priority. 3 is a noted. 4, it's on the list. And 5, it's not pressing. When we look at this from, regular, performance management or delegation or setting priorities, the things that are not important and are not urgent, there are 5. If they're urgent and they're important, there are 1. And anything else between a 2, a 3, and 4, we can sort of schedule them in, we can delegate them, or we can make them a priority. So I want to talk to you about that discovery. If you go to ChatGPT or you look at any manual on how to set priorities, the first thing they say is create a list. But as entrepreneurs, we don't always know what that list includes. So I have a list, and like I said, it's a checklist, but it's time to look at your big picture. So I want to talk to you about what I'm breaking it down to. Of the 52 questions, I follow my evaluate strategic framework. Number 1, what's your vision? Statistics Canada or Industry Canada put out a study a couple of years ago, and they said, there are 3 reasons why businesses fail. The first of which is that they have no vision. Secondly, they don't have experience and they don't have the knowledge to run their business. So If you have the experience, but you don't know where you're going, that's a problem. And if you have experience and you have the knowledge to run your business and still no vision, it's still not going to get you further because you don't know what you're going after. So I'm going to talk to you about each one of these as part of the pillars and why you're going to break them down into this way, or why I broke them down into this way, so that you can actually address the priorities. So I want to talk. So, first one, when we talk about entrepreneurial leadership, this is about your vision. This is your mindset. This is about, you building your team, continuous learning to build up that knowledge base on how to be a better entrepreneur. We also talk a lot about compliance. Is your business registered? Are you set up and structured properly? Are there some things that you haven't really addressed in your vision, or you don't have a long-term plan? These are the things that we need to address, because as entrepreneurs, nobody's going to do that for you. This is your North Star. When I talk about revenue streams, it's really about pricing. What are your products and services that you offer? What's your profit margin? Do you have a secure supply chain? Are there the cost of goods really outlined? Is there something that you can do that you can address that and that you can look at further? So the questions around revenue streams are all about products, pricing, and your logic. When we talk about operations, things get a little different and they dig a little deeper. What's your org chart? Even if you're a solopreneur, you need to have an org chart. What is the workflow when work comes in? What's your capacity? And really, what's not negotiable? If you were your customer, what are the items or the actions that need to happen in order for you to fulfill your service or your product delivery? Then I go into team, and this gets a little deeper. The team is really the backbone, and they're the ones that take your vision forward to your company or to your organization and to your customers. Recruitment, retention, engagement, and recognition. How are you keeping good people? And then we also need to talk about the real nitty-gritty, which is about risk and compliance. And there's some non-negotiables that need to be handled when we start talking about team development. And what's the professional development? Are you helping your team stay engaged? Are you taking training with them? How are you keeping your business on top? And then I have a real big passion for product management. And one of the core values in product management is really about the customer experience. It's not an employee role, it's a leadership role. And this is where you connect with your customers. If your team or your business is not meeting your customers' needs, what is it that needs to be pivoted, or what can you change? Where is the opportunity for you to retain those customers instead of going out to have to get a new one every time? Churn is the major killer of a lot of businesses. It's a lot more expensive to bring in new clients all the time than it is to find a reason or a way to resell. And this is all about connecting with your customers. The sixth one I've lumped together is sales and marketing. This is your target market and how you're getting them to convert. And when I say convert, it's really about how you're attaching your message to your client and getting them to come back. Are you working with joint ventures and strategic partnerships? Have you got referral systems in place? What are the tools that you're using, and getting really clear on who your target market is and what you can bring to the table? Now, finance is number 7. It is more than just the numbers on the page or the accountant delivery that you get at the end of every fiscal year when you do your taxes. It's really about understanding your business, reading the numbers, that profit loss monthly in and out. What are the key performance indicators that tell you there's something wrong? And do you have assumptions or cash flow forecasts that allow you to stay on top of it. So when we're deciding what looks good there, we need to really ask some different types of questions. And then lastly, and this is my favorite, unless you know all the rest of it, you really can't plan. What are those SMART goals that you want to get into? And this comes with those priority pieces that we're talking about today. Are you forecasting CEO time? Are you dreaming big? Work-life balance is not as easy as or cut and dry as it would be if you had a corporate job, but as an entrepreneur and as business owner, how are you balancing that? And, I always say entrepreneurs are the worst for not taking vacations. We're not necessarily prioritizing us or our families in some of this. And it's about measuring our success. How can we do that? So are you ready to set some priorities? I'm going to fill you in on how to do this. Now, this is about learning what you don't know, and then I want you to talk about it. We're going to do an inventory. Going through this framework, you're going to ask yourself some questions, and they're different questions. They may look very easy, and they may seem to be fluffy. Some people, oops, I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to drop in the chat the link to the assessment. And there you go. You can download that right here from the webinar, or I will send it to you later as a follow-up along with this presentation. Download the assessment. There is no fluff. The questions may look nice and they may seem kind of airy, but if you actually have to think down and answer the questions, there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration to answer those questions. That's why, as a business broker, I knew what I was getting into and where the challenges were long before we actually started talking about the specifics. Because if you can't answer these high-level questions, you've got some work to do. I will ask that you take some time. I'm saying 20 minutes, half an hour, grab a coffee and a pen in a quiet place and really answer them. And when you're done, share it with your advisors. Talk to somebody, talk to another entrepreneur, ask some questions. Now you're going to know what you don't know. How can you take it to the next level and get some support? And I always say, put it in your calendar to do it again in 6 to 12 months and then compare it. I've done it in an Excel spreadsheet. And the reason I did it in an Excel spreadsheet is so that everybody can have access to it. And because I really wanted everybody to be able to log the information. This is a template. You may go through this the first time and say, I want to change that question to something else along the same lines, but more customized to me. Please do. The questions are broken up. You can see based on the framework on the left. Leave overall health until you're done answering each section. I'm going to ask that, start here. Is it yes, no, or not applicable? If it's not applicable, don't erase it. You may find it applicable later on, but you don't have to answer that question. You can say it's not applicable. Is it urgent? This is where the priority comes in. Again, if it's on fire, it's urgent. Is it something that's compliance related? It's urgent. If it's something that is, not really going to make a difference in the way your business operates or how you facilitate your service, or, maybe it's something as, you want to work on your supply chain, you want to look for new suppliers, but it's not an urgent need. Your supplier's fine, things are coming through, but you just want to look at the market. Maybe that's more like a 4 or a 5. The key here is to write notes, details, aspirations. So not just if it's an urgency, I want to know what's really going on. And then once you've answered the block of questions under that framework, I want you to come back and I want you to give yourself a score. Out of 100, how well do you think you have that part of your business under control? Be honest. Nobody's going to see this but you. It's a chance to really dive in and self-assess what's important and what's a priority. Please share it with your friends and advisors. Start a conversation. I always say that the one thing I've noticed with entrepreneurs, and myself included, is that we don't know what we don't know. And we really don't talk about it enough. And that's not because we don't want to talk about it. I think that there's a disconnect between knowing what to talk about or not having a full understanding of what questions to ask. That framework is going to give you some questions to ask, and it's going to pinpoint the issues that are already out there. So there is a lot to cover. I do have a couple notes of caution before you dive in. Please don't try to correct course on everything in the next week. You've prioritized them, so pick a little bit at a time. And schedule a weekly time. And I always, my clients get mad at me. I was like, this is CEO time. This is sacred time. Set aside half an hour, 2 hours a week, whatever you need, but just to be by yourself thinking about working on the business. I had a mentor tell me once that was the key to his success, was that every Saturday morning he would hide away, he would go to a coffee shop, and he would just work on his business. And by the end of that 2-hour Saturday morning routine, he knew exactly what had to be done. He could organize it. And he went on to run 6 or 7 really successful businesses all at the same time, simply by following that routine. So now you know what you needs attention. You've actually started a plan because you've prioritized activities, and you're going to improve your business performance just by thinking this way. Do it again. Set your schedule to do it again. Now, I do have a Q&A, and I know we're just 5 minutes left to the session. Are there any questions at this time? And I'm going to stop the recording to handle those one-on-one. Before I do that, let's connect. If you're not connected with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Evaluate Evolve Business Coaching is on both. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you. If you have any follow-up questions, please do shoot me an email. I'm happy to help, but I know you've got this. All the best.